Welcome everybody. Yes, it's another Hops Outside virtual happy hour, and today everybody else is inside except for Mr. Jay Rosicky, who is outside down in Florida because he's escaped Illinois. Apparently it's just as hot down there as it is up here. Jay, what are you drinking?
Well, I ran out of my Chicago beer, so I'm drinking a Coors, but at least I wrapped it in not a Chicago beer, but a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale koozie.
I hear they're having a problem with beer down in Florida, as apparently it is the case with you drinking that. But, well, whatever. I want to say hi to my
lager, right?
Yeah, hey, Ken. Hi, Ken. How are you? Welcome to the show again, my co-host.
I'm excellent. Can I pour my beer now, Phil?
You can pour your beer, because while you're pouring your beer, let me go back here. It's my very, very good pleasure to introduce two of the best looking people we've had on the show. Because remember, we've got faces for radio, but it is below me. But I don't know how you're looking at it, of course. It's Tom Beckmann and his lovely wife, Alison, who are the owner brewers over at a very, very brand new brewery opening up in Downers Grove. And it is Goldfinger Brewing. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Hey, thank you very much for coming on, because I know, having been down there today, and I will do full disclosure, you were able to give us some samples of beer, which I'm just about to pour out in just a second, and we can discuss those as we go through this. You're not even open, and you said you might be opening on July the 17th, but I think you said that's being pushed back.
Yes. Unfortunately, we've had to push it back a couple of times throughout this build out, but I have a feeling we're not the only ones that have gone through stuff like this before. We're hoping to be open. What would you say? I'm afraid to announce a date. We'll have some inspections.
Don't.
Okay, that's
don't announce a date. I know Milk Money has gone through like 4 different dates, and we're now shooting for the end of August, but who knows when.
I mean, a build out in general is very difficult, but then you add COVID to all of this, and a lot of what we've run into is a lot of just sourcing materials for build out has been a little more complicated. The logistics have kind of delayed us more than we would have liked, but we're very happy and excited that we're in the home stretch.
And I should say that we recorded this show probably a couple of weeks ago, and you said, hey, how about putting it out closer to when we're going to open? So all our conversation happened a way back, and now you're real close to opening up, right?
Exactly. We're right around the corner.
All right. Well, I'm going to do something here, and that is to open my beer, which I got from you. And this is your original lager, as you call it. And so as I'm pouring that, there we go. We got a beautiful close-up of your beer. Tell us a little bit about what styles you're brewing here, because I'm kind of excited in so much as I don't think you're going to be doing hazy IPAs.
No, we will not be. Don't come to Goldfinger for hazy IPAs. So we're excited because we're going to be a strictly lager house, and in the truest sense of the form, meaning, unfortunately, because we both love the style, we won't even be brewing Hefeweizen because that's an ale. We only use lager yeast in this brewery. But one of our goals is to just really focus on a few styles that we can really dial in and just continue to produce consistently. And one of the biggest challenges with lager beer is that they take a long time. We brew according to not quite REINHEITSGEBOT, but in many aspects brew our beers the traditional way, which includes storing the beer. So the ones that you have in front of you right now, storing them for a long period of time. We brewed that on April 29th. So should be at pretty much peak flavor right now.
Well, hello, we got a little bit of wind from Jay, if you're...
Sorry.
Yeah, you can't help the wind. I mean,
No.
and I do mean it's the wind in the air. But yeah, I'm just going to mute.
We got some wind from Jay.
I want to show everybody in my Warsteiner glass what a beautiful beer that is. That's a lovely color. Now, I've tasted this, and I'm not certain how it's supposed to taste from the perspective of what the style is, but it's awesome. It is crisp. It's got a very... Ken, can you tell us how you've got it in your glass? Tell us a little bit what you think.
It's obviously all, light malts, probably all base malts. It's beautiful. It's clear. It's got just a hint of sulfur. But I mean, not in a bad way. It's delicious. Like, this is a really refreshing, easy to drink brew. Probably not as refreshing as Jay's, but
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
The beer, I think the best way to describe this beer, and I didn't come up with this phrase, I think I'm recycling it 3 times over now, but the measure of a good, because this is a Helles style lager, the measure of a good Helles is you don't actually realize how good it is until you're ordering your 3rd or 4th liter, and you can still drink that, and you're just as excited to drink that one as you were the first one. So it's one of those styles that you're not supposed to quaff. You're not supposed to analyze too much. You're just supposed to enjoy. And it should be balanced and subtle enough that there's nothing offensive about it, and you can just keep drinking sip after sip.
yeah.
And you're absolutely correct. So,
So Tom, where'd you learn to brew lagers like this? And I mean, you and Allison, where'd you guys get your brewing skills? And tell us your story.
Your story.
I learned, I don't brew hands-on. I'm just there mostly cleaning up and
Best assistant brewer ever.
measuring things out, and of course the best taste tester.
yeah, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing Allison. I think you've probably got the microphone portion of the laptop close to you, but that's okay.
Sure.
Maybe you could say that again.
Can you hear her now?
Yeah, go
Are you
ahead.
able to hear?
Oh, yeah.
I just said that I pretty much do the cleanup after Tom, or measuring hops or different things like that. And then, of course, the taste tester. So I don't do the actual brewing.
Okay.
But can you know that's cleaning up is pretty much 90% of the job anyway. So it's good to have a really supportive wife and assistant wherever I need her. But I am the brewer. I used to homebrew, and I used to be a sales manager for a tech company while I was homebrewing, and I just absolutely loved brewing, that I decided that I was going to quit my job and enroll in the Master Brewers program through Siebel Institute here in Chicago and the Domens Academy in Munich, Germany. The reason I chose that is, number one, I've always loved lager styles. Even though I love a lot of different types of craft beer styles, lagers have always been the style of beer that I've loved. My dad, I think one of my first craft beers I ever drank was actually the Victory Prima Pils. And I was like, this is how beer actually tastes. So I got hooked and ended up going to, I don't know, can you guys hear a lot of background noise or no?
A little bit, yep.
Yeah.
It's cool though. It's not bad.
All right, good. We're still under construction. So I enrolled in the program and then graduated in Munich from the Brewing Academy and got my first job at Lagunitas. So even though I love lagers, I ended up working for the IPA king of almost the world, pretty much. And then from there, I wanted to have a more intimate setting where I could brew some of my own beers and also just kind of get closer to my finished product. So I started working for Emmett's Brewery actually here in town in DG. I worked there for a couple of years, and then we were kind of planning this toward the end of that, and now we're here.
I saw that Alison has a rather interesting glass. What are you drinking, Alison? And are those your glasses now?
Yeah. So
yeah.
I have the Vienna lager in our.
We have the small version, and then we have the half-liter. It's the 0.3. These all of our glassware was made in Europe, in Poland, which is our brewing roots, and also in Germany. So they have. Can you see that?
Cool.
This is our
Really
Pilsner
cool,
glass.
Glassware is awesome.
Yeah,
So
I like
I know
it.
you're in Downers Grove, but why or how did you come about picking Downers Grove as your location?
So I grew up in Downers Grove, and even though we lived in the city, we moved together. Once we got engaged, we moved back to Downers Grove. And the funny thing about our actual specific location, I was telling Phil this earlier, is we have a dog and we used to take him for walks all across town. And it was during the time we were scoping out locations, and we always kind of wanted to stay in the area. And we stumbled upon the building that we currently occupy. And 8 months later, there's tanks full of beer.
That's awesome. The other thing I wanted to add too is I love all the beers, but having worked with Pollyanna and tried some of Brian's lagers, lagers are at my heart. If a brewer can do a good lager, everything else is gonna be fine.
Hey,
Meaning,
that's all they are doing.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. But you can go to a brewery and like they have a stout with adjuncts in it or a milkshake, whatever, and it could be a bad beer. They're covering stuff up. I'm not saying brewers are doing that, but if you can do a good lager, everything else is going to be cake.
I'll tell you what, Jay. It used to be that you judged a brewery by its IPA. I mean, everybody just would come in but what I look for is a Vienna lager now. If somebody's got a Vienna lager, that's my first beer. And a lot of breweries have them.
They have a Vienna lager, so maybe we should open one up.
I have that. I'm going to go get it.
Okay, and I'm going to get mine. So while we're getting this, maybe you can tell us a little bit about the history of Goldfinger Brewing, because I think when somebody hears that, they're going to immediately think of James Bond. But I didn't see anybody in there that was James Bond. So
No.
How did you get that name? I mean, it's an awesome name, but how'd you get that?
So it's actually my ancestor's last name. So right about the time when I was brewing, we had also done a genealogy test, and we just started to discover these roots of these brewing roots that we had back in Poland. And not only did we discover the roots themselves, but we actually have artifacts from our family's brewery back from the 1870s. In fact, in our possession, except right here, unfortunately, they used to make brewing equipment. So we have a Zwickel valve made by Marcus Goldfinger with the emblem on it that we will have this on display in our tap room alongside a bunch of different advertisements that they used to run in the local newspaper, all in Polish because this was in Krakow. But they were a pretty formidable name back in the late 19th century. They dealt hops, and they even brewed in Prague and dealt hops in Prague and as far east as like the eastern border of Poland. So we wanted to kind of revive the old family tradition. We are a family-owned brewery, and we truly believe in kind of reviving old things, which is also why we've wanted to brew our lager beers, because these are the beers that our ancestors brewed.
So I have, in that short space, poured out your Vienna lager. What a beautiful color that is. I like the look of it. Ken, have you poured yours?
I did. Look at the bottle I poured it from.
Oh, so I have to full transparency.
Well,
It's a Grolsch.
yeah, that was upside down, but
You guys haven't got your you've got a few glasses. You haven't got your growlers together. You're at that stage when we recorded this. So I had to go take a howler and take it over to Ken and he poured it into a Grolsch. So if we're not tasting it as crisp as you would hope it to be, please forgive us. But
well, honestly, when I opened that Grolsch bottle after pouring it from your howler, it had a nice psh, and it poured nice. It's got a nice head on it. Nice carb. The caramel malts are delicious in there.
Yeah. Oh, so malts are what we should be expecting in this particular lager, kind of a malty flavor.
This is my favorite lager that we have.
Cool. I'm glad because this is going to be very popular. So
nice.
From the aspect of your history, you've got German and Polish. Is that because your name is Beckmann, which is German, right?
Yeah, it's from the Austro-Hungarian Empire initially. I had family all over Eastern Europe pre-World War I, so the Goldfinger's heyday was just at the turn of the century. So my father's lineage is the Goldfinger lineage. So they all were kind of from the Krakow area, and they moved across into the Czech Republic. And actually, I am the first generation of U.S. born of my family. My dad is interestingly from Colombia, because so my grandparents were in Poland, and after they survived the World War II and fled from Poland, one of their friends had a job for my grandfather in Colombia, South America. So that's how we ended up there, and now we're here. So we've just kind of been all over the world, I guess.
No, like I'm hearing your history. You're the first generation. So your dad being in Colombia, how did you end up in America?
So my dad is a doctor, and he met my mom, who was a nurse. She was born in Mexico but grew up in the States, and my mom joined the Peace Corps as a nurse, and they sent her down to a rural town in Colombia where my dad was doing his doctor residency, and fell in love, got married down there, and my mom basically wrote my dad's application for a PhD in Chicago, and that's how we ended up in Chicago.
You need to do a beer and tell that story with the name of the beer after that.
Well, I have another question for you. Looking at that background, that's not a picture, right? Is that the brewery?
This is the brewery. So
really cool horizontal tanks. Tell us about it.
Yeah. Here,
and while you're telling us about it, I took a few videos whilst I was down there, so I'll play that. You can sit where you are. Oh, are we going to lose it? No, here we go. We got it.
Yeah, sorry, the reflection was actually, so here's our tap room, and we have these wrought iron chandeliers, very reminiscent of some of the beer halls that I frequented a little bit too much when I was in Europe. But right back here, you have a nice view of our brewery, and all of our beers spend the majority of their life in the horizontal lagering tanks. The reason being is we think that it has a very, very positive impact on the overall flavor of a lager beer, just because of how soft and so lager yeast in general just needs to be treated very kindly. And in order to do that, you need to do things very cold, very slowly, and with not a lot of pressure. So when you have a tank this long versus this tall, you have a lot less hydrostatic pressure stressing out that yeast, which in turn would give you some nice soft flavors versus having too much pressure on top of them. So that's why we opted for the horizontal tanks. We have a decoction brewery So this beauty that you guys are drinking right now is a double decocted Vienna lager. Our original lager is a single decoction, and our Pils is a no decoction.
And that's why it takes so long for you to make the beer and let it sit, because that takes extra time in the brewing process, right?
It sure does. We follow a pretty strict German fermentation and conditioning schedule. Our diacetyl rests are all done very cold as opposed to warm. We just really believe that from the moment that yeast touches the wort, that it just needs to be nice and cold for as long as possible.
I'm going to say this. We've done a lot of these episodes. This is one of the ones I'm so very excited to get by you guys, because I love lagers. And hearing all your, because I didn't know much about you guys until Phil mentioned you. And when I get back there, probably sometime in August, you can bet your dollar I will be by you guys to try some of your beers. Milk Money's opening sometime back then, but when I come up, you guys will be one of my stops for sure. I'm super excited about coming by and trying your lagers.
Come on, Jay, get your ass back up here.
I will, sometime August or September for sure.
Okay, we're gonna kind of raise our glasses here and finish off the video portion, but I would like to ask one final question about what's behind you that people are going to lean on, plus also your bar. It's got a story, right?
There is a story. You're referring to our countertops, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So while we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do, how we wanted to finish the bar top, I stumbled upon the fact that the Wheaton bowling alley had shut down and there was somebody selling all the wood from it. So I got in a huge truck and ended up picking up 2.5-inch thick maple wood from the Wheaton bowling lane, which has crazy history that we continued to discover as we were working on this. So we knew that this wood had initially been in a Japanese bowling alley, and after the Wheaton bowling alley had burnt down and they rebuilt in the 70s, they brought all of that wood back to Wheaton and built the bowling alley. But then our carpenter, as he's pulling these pieces apart to finish them and sand them, he discovers a piece that says product of Ireland. So at least some portion of this wood was actually sourced from Ireland. So it's over 250 years old, and this is where you get to belly up and have some crisp lager.
Wow, that's amazing. That's really good that it's staying local, because I live not more than 10 minutes from Wheaton Bowl, so I'm very familiar with that location.
That's
even
neat,
though
man.
I don't bowl. I can't pick up the balls. This is about as much as I can pick up. So anyway, we're going to hopefully carry on our conversation here a little bit with you for our extended audio podcast. So I'm going to raise my glass to Mr. Coors, which is Jay down there. Cheers, Jay, for coming on.
Cheers, guys.
Illinois soon. Cheers to you, Ken. And
I'm gonna raise mine to the Beckmans and bring in, a lager brewery out.
Yeah, I am so excited.
I'll say that. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. Sure. Fabulous. And I can't wait to come in there when you're open and free and we can cohabitate without masks on. So all in all, it's 1, 2, 3. Oh, how do they say cheers in Poland?
Na zdrowie.
Yeah, easy for you to say. Na zdrowie. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers.